Welcome to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past shows are available as podcasts. You can find them at ArtistFirst.com. We welcome your email questions and comments to dj@ArtistFirst.com. And now here they are, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
And thank you very much, Z-Man, and welcome everyone to the Denny's 4 o'clock special.
Oh, Lordy.
Put your teeth in. We're a little early tonight.
Well, I think everyone's in for it tonight.
Everyone's in for it tonight, and but they're not, because we're going to be nice. I'm going to be nice.
Okay.
And we are going to go confidently into the next 55 minutes of the show.
Alrighty.
And it's going to go like a dream.
It always does.
It does. And I'm hinting at our topic, and our topic is one of our favorite philosophers, Uncle Henry. You want to read the quote from Uncle Henry?
Uncle Henry. All right. This is from Henry David Thoreau.
Mm-hmm.
Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you've imagined.
Mm. And Uncle Henry was quite the philosopher. And he, unlike many, he didn't just tell people. He lived it.
Yes,
first.
he did.
His experiences are what he wrote about. And I think that's what makes him so very present and so very real to many people, is because Thoreau was not an intellectual philosopher. He was an experiential philosopher. And this particular quote, I think those like Tolle and those who say live in the now would find very comforting and very germane, because it isn't, it's easy to say, oh, he's talking about your dreams, he's talking about the future, he's talking about living in your own imagination. No, that's not Thoreau. Thoreau didn't do any of those things. The big words in the beginning are go confidently in the direction of your dreams. And what that is it's a being in action. It's someone who is in the moment, going in the direction of your dreams. So, as we say many times, every moment is a moment of now. Every moment is a moment of decision. You always have to make the choice. And in choosing, you are both being and in some cases acting. So going confidently is making that choice from a being state. And then in the direction of your dreams, because one thing about the moment of now is you do make a choice, but there's no guarantee. You say, here's where I am. I will choose to do this about where I am, still in the now, but your choice doesn't guarantee anything. The next amming, the next moment, may still not be what you chose it or wanted it to be, but that's okay. You accept the moment of now, the next moment of now. You say, okay, reality is what reality is. That's Thoreau all over. Thoreau lived in the now, His experiential philosophy was very much based on the being state, on being in the moment, in being the observer, and being the consciousness. And yet, he was also wanting to, who knows, do what. So, using the faculties of the mental, the mind is incredibly powerful to imagine what might be. But then to go, Margaret, to go confidently in the direction of your dreams is still a being state. It's still a choice in the now.
I think the key to his statement has to do with the word imagined. Because to be in a state of imagining, and we've all been there, where you're projecting this image and examining it, and you're imagining what could be. And it's interesting to watch the motivations that you have as you imagine. Because if you decide to be doubtful, then all the doubts that you may have for this that you are imagining in your imaging, you bring in all those doubts. This could happen, or that could happen, or maybe that would happen. And it's understanding, watching, almost like you have a screen in front of you and that is your imagination. And you're watching it and realizing that things that are crossing the screen, what has motivated that image to make an appearance on that screen. And if it's hope or wanting to be in that moment of joy, reliving that moment, you're imagining that moment of reliving in the joy. And you see that manifesting on the screen, unfolding on the screen. That state of being is what is resonating in you. So it's being able to train yourself to be able to say, okay, oh, this piece came in. Oh, that's a doubt. That's a lower frequency. That's not hope. That's not possibility. That's looking on the flip side of, well, this negative could always happen. And we've all been trained that way, mind you, to always look at the negative. But to look at it in terms of anticipation of what could happen. And not to dwell on it, because that's the problem. If you dwell on that lower frequency, then you are imagining yourself at that negative possibility. And to honestly ask yourself, why do I do that? Why am I always looking for the thing that would go wrong? And it's usually not to correct it. Why?
Well, I think I love the word that you use, which is dwell, because dwell is live in a being state. So you give it life if you dwell upon it. So the mental, the experiential is, I accept the moment of now, and I realize through my mental faculties, through my experience prior, that this could happen, this or this or this, whatever the possibilities might be. And I have to make a choice, and the choice is to go into the next moment and dwell in that one. But if you instead are seduced by the mental and seduced by the possibilities and then dwell there, you've gone, first of all, totally would say you've gone unconscious. You've gone into the imagining. You give it life by, as you said, dwelling there. So you spend time there, you put energy there, you assume the raiment, the outer garment of this imagining, and you live in it. The wonderful phrase from the Bible is the whited sepulcher, that you live in, that you inhabit. You give an imagining life, and you in essence live in something which is not is a lifeless thing. It is not even a thing. It's a lifeless imagining.
You are not at the core of life. You are only at what encases the outward form.
Exactly.
And to to understand that life itself is to be engaged, to be lived, to be grasped, to be walked. And when you're thinking about it, what you're doing is standing on the surface of what it appears to be, instead of residing in the very center of your existence. Because when you are living, everything around you feels that flow of life energy and the frequency that you're choosing. So if you choose to dwell on all the negatives that are possibly happening, and frankly, when you go down that road, the final outcome is the world is going to end. The world is ending. It's ending now. You know, and you're sitting here going, okay, so what are you going to do with that empty shell of a concept? Because that becomes an empty shell of a concept. What do you choose to do there? Are you going to hold that close to your chest and try to convince yourself that you're living? Because it's an empty vessel. Is that what you want your life to be? Is that who you want to be? An empty vessel, no life in you. Just an outward form, that whited sepulcher, as you had quoted.
Yeah.
Or are you going to abide at the very core of you, living and breathing? And it doesn't guarantee that it's all going to be a wonderful experience, mind you. Living is a full spectrum of things. And I always found it amazing that the height of love that you may feel means that you can also feel the depth of pain. And you're feeling both states. And sometimes you feel them simultaneously. And I never thought the human heart would be able to encompass such a broad range.
Yeah.
But it can.
Yes. But to bring it back, because you packed so many things into the statement, but the seduction, the unconscious state, is to inhabit these imaginings. You very rightly call them empty vessels or dead vessels. You know, if you are seduced by the mental, you're seduced by the thought, because in the moment the mind clamors. It says very, very rightly and loudly that this and that and this, and you have to pay attention here and pay attention there. And you have to, in essence, think, you have to have the interesting thing is you have to have the presence of mind to remain a presence, to remain, as you said, at the core of life, at the living, at the moment of now, at the acceptance. You know, this, again, back to Thoreau, the experiential philosopher, he realized very early in his life, somewhere that he had probably never even wrote about. He wrote about it later and much more maturely, but that the now, the moment of experience, was the key. And then he eschewed, you know, all the distractions of life. He put himself living like a hermit, living like an iconoclast, and realized that he didn't need anything else. You know, that this existence, this moment of now, was enough and more than enough. It consumed him, you know, his as it consumes all of us. And yet each experience can't be you know, you got to be careful in experience too, because experience, you can very easily get jaded by over experience. And you can also kind of find yourself saying, well, I don't like this one. I'm looking forward to the next one, to the next beautiful sunset. I just want to get through the day so I can get to the sunset. And yet the beautiful sunset has to inform you at your heart that this experience now and then we will experience the end of the sunset. Then we will experience the rising of the first star, and then you realize that every moment, even a moment which the mind says, "Well, nothing's happening," the mind's great at that. Look at that; it's boring. We just no, the mind has to be stilled and saying, "Yes, in the stillness, even there's the next moment," and so you become, in living in the moment, you become this thing, this being that goes confidently into the next moment, the direction of your dreams. I think the dreams here, Margaret, might really be the common dream. The dream, the common dream. When dreams is a word which is interesting because the turmoil and toil and wonderful flow life, the endless roaring cataract of life that's all around us, will carry you along, and your that dream is greater than all being. It encompasses being. Being needs to be there to witness it and to experience it. But the vastness of creation is made such that the dream can be so vast that we can take our vastness and inhabit it. So that's, go confidently into life.
Well, the dream is part of the being. It's not the other way around. Being encompasses all of that. That's just an aspect of being.
Right. I don't mean to say that the dream is greater than the being, but the dream is vast, that we can all share it.
Yes. The sharing is something that is quite unique to human beings, to beings here. It takes courage to begin to share in another person's dream.
It does.
And then because we can see that things can be brought quickly into a state of almost nightmarish reality. But to understand that you have the ability to choose in your dream, and that is never taken away from you. So when things become something that can actually begin to harm you or denigrate you or imprison you, because you have to watch carefully when you feel like the dream is imprisoning your being state. Pay attention to when you feel enclosed like that, and allow yourself to come back to that stillness so that you can see clearly what's going on. Usually means that you've come close up, so close that you can't see anything else except the thing that they've shoved in front of your eyes. You don't have to just watch that. You can choose. You can choose a higher platform to look out at your world.
I like what you said, just again, this idea of being imprisoned by the dream, because the only thing, and I think we've talked about this earlier, the only thing that can actually imprison you or kind of prevent you from being in the being state is your own self. It's a war. Again, the mental is able to pit itself against itself, and it borrows power from your being. Almost. It's not that it's unwilling, but it will. Maybe the best way to say is the mental is very good at convincing you that it's very important and that you need to live here, and then you have this idea of being unable to kind of overcome this prison. You say, well, this is going to happen, and I can't do that, I can't do this. You imprison yourself in these mental constructs And then you end up, as Tolly says, with the pain body, which is imprisoned
Life force.
unconsciousness and life force imprisoning you. And then there's the idea that there's these other, these other voices in your head that are telling you that you're this and you're that, or you're not good enough, you're too great, or you're too this. And these voices in your head are you. They're the only thing that can hold you. Is you. Your own being state, your own being power, divided against itself, like the old phrase, a house divided against itself. A being divided against itself is the only thing that can imprison you. And learning to dissipate those forms, to realize that, first of all, that they are forms, that they are shadows.
The key there is to not identify who you are with a thought form, because that's where the shell begins to form. You identify with the thought process that you just had. It should be a certain way. My life should be a certain way. That is the empty shell. Your life is, but your mind wants to qualify everything. So if you accept that, then that is the beginning of the form of imprisoning you in this very small space, because the mind can only make small spaces.
Yeah.
It cannot encompass the fullness of who you are. But your ego and your mind go back and forth this way. Some people can't distinguish between the two. Your mind is different from your ego. And the two, when they band together, feel that they can overwhelm everything. And it's like, okay, no. Now, you guys are not driving the vehicle. Take a back seat.
I even think you would put in, I'll say this, and maybe you have the mind, you have the ego, and then the other thing people don't distinguish is the emotion body, the pain, the upwelling of experience that engenders emotion, which both the ego and the mind fight over because it's power.
The emotion is, we've said this before, it's the fuel, the energy that comes in for any situation. And I think that's something to be grasped. To understand that when you are in a moment and you have a reaction rising, you feel the emotion rising, that is an energy rising. And to be able to begin to focus that in the direction that need be. All right? It's answering the need that's rising inside of you. And when you are capable of taking that response, focusing it into channels that need to be executed or withheld or spoken, it's amazing the things that can happen. But to allow it to flood your being without any kind of structured form, it's like the difference between an explosion and a laser beam. You must focus the energy that comes in, and then it needs to be expressed or executed in a precise manner that matches the frequency that you have chosen to embody or hold. So if you have chosen to be compassionate and your heart sees something and it breaks at what it sees, it hurts so much, you take that response, and through that lens of compassion, because you got to choose your lens. Some people, the easiest lens to slip right in there, anger. you can choose another one. You really can. You're just accustomed to that little anger lens going in. Seeing red, it's a lower frequency on the spectrum. Let's go for a much higher frequency of compassion. Let's insert the white light that is divine. And you get this incredible, sparkling, light pink, which most people equate with an unconditional love. But they always think pink is very weak for some reason. I always found that fascinating. Incredibly compassionate and expansive is that energy. And to focus your response through that lens of compassion, you won't believe what can happen, because it's not about you at that point. You understand that you are the point of expression, but you've aided in holding that lens steady and grounded right into this moment.
Yeah, I love that. The compassion is an interesting. If the Buddha talks about compassion, and also the Dalai Lama talks about compassion. And compassion, training oneself to compassion, is also kind of opening up. It's I think a very good step to being in a being state, because the immediate response of anger is always outward focused on them. They're not doing it right, or I'm right and they're wrong.
Right.
And that's always an unconscious.
As I said, it's a lower frequency. It's seeing red. There is a reason why our language says that. Seeing red.
Seeing red. And it's always I focus. I'm being wrong. They're wrong. I'm right, and I. But then the compassion is, as you said just a moment ago, it's not about you. You train yourself into it's not about me. Compassion is also better at accepting the now and seeing that with this inrush of emotion, because emotion, as you said, is energy. It's power. It comes from form. It comes from the creation, the universe around you. Emotion rushes in.
It comes from relationship. When you find yourself in a relationship of not just, and when I say relationship, it's not just between two people. You can have a relationship with what is happening in the outside world. An event happens, and you have a response to what you see. It's understanding that everything around you, in dreaming the common dream and sharing that dream, has to do with the lines of relationship between you and the other. So embracing that, understanding that relationship is empowered by the emotions that rise in you. And you can choose, as I said, choose the lens by which you express it through.
Yes. Well, yes. But then you have this power coming in, and you have chosen your lens. That's what I'm trying to say. As these other folks have said, Dalai Lama and so on, is you train yourself to choose this lens. I think there's still much more to go beyond that, but this is a good place to be in a being state, to have that lens as your habit, your mental habit, to apply the lens of compassion to the inrush of energy, because the energy, as you said, can go anywhere, and you can, with that fuel and that lens chosen, sort of pre-chosen, you've predisposed yourself to making it not about you, and to opening yourself up to accepting the moment, and also to not knocking yourself out of the being state. Compassion kind of leaves you closer, even though you may have a huge influx of emotion, and as you said, your heart's breaking, you're feeling, not overwhelmed, but just this amazing turbulent upwelling. But you apply the lens of compassion and you extend yourself, this is still dangerous in one regard, because if you identify, and that's what you said earlier, and identify is the word, again, language informs, identify. I am this. If you say I am this, even being I am compassion, you become Mother Teresa. You're going to be a saint, but you may burn your form and all of your being in this, and you identify with it. It becomes a burning of form into this, constant outflow of compassion. This is good. Let me just finish. And this is good, but higher, more up, even higher into the frequency of being would be compassion is there, but being, experiential philosophy says, yes, this may need to be, that even my level of compassion may have to be still not action. I feel for them, but they need to go through this. This is the higher, the real presence, the real consciousness understands that I may not be called to act, even in the greatest emotion of compassion, because I have to say the lens I really need is the lens, the God lens, if you will, the lens of this, you said earlier, this needs to be, and nothing may stop it.
Well, let me qualify a couple of things.
Sure.
Because we're using English, and it has some limitations. Compassion is the highest form, as far as I'm concerned. It is the absolute and unconditional love and selfless. What the Dalai Lama, and as well as other practices, other religions, have set forth is loving kindness. You must focus on loving kindness because it is a more immediate thing that you can grasp, as opposed to compassion. Compassion has to take you outside of yourself, and there are many people not ready for something like that. But loving kindness is a step in that direction. In the Jewish tradition, it's chesed, which is compassion, but it's tinged with mercy.
Yeah, the mercy, exactly. Chesed. Isn't it lovely that we don't have in English a word for loving kindness? We have to use two words. But there are in other languages, as you mentioned, in Hebrew, this idea of merciful love. We could call it that, or loving kindness. Kindness and mercy are intertwined a bit in English, and love we understand, but the Greeks had 15 different loves.
Yeah, that's true. But what I'm saying is loving kindness is the threshold.
Yes.
To be able to take a step whenever something's going on and to begin to discipline your mental faculty and understanding. It's loving kindness. You almost have to give those two words, loving kindness, to that mental faculty of yours and let it hang on to it.
Right. Just like, count them. Loving, I'm doing loving. Now I'm doing kindness. Now I'm doing loving. Now I'm doing kindness.
Because if you give it compassion, it's going to...
Yeah.
If you give it the word compassion, it's going to limit it. And compassion is limitless.
Yeah.
But it does need something to hang on to. So this is something it begins to identify, because loving kindness means that it's a whole different state that it's bringing itself and the body into. It's more open, it's gentler.
More understanding, more accepting.
Respectful.
And respectful.
Okay, so those two words, loving kindness, allows for the beginnings of shift in your internal frequency.
You can practice them. In the initial response, which I think many people practice their way out of, is this anger combative response.
Okay. Right.
And so you can literally grab a hold of your anger response and say, I'm going to instead substitute loving kind. The mental just has to grab it back,
Yeah, no, it takes a lot of practice. And frankly, I don't know how many people would be interested in this, but the most efficient way of beginning to do this is to allow yourself, when you're driving and people do crazy, not to respond with anger. Okay? Very difficult to do because you're geared that way because it feels like a threat.
The emotion is there. Well, let's take a moment in loving kindness and go back to the studio and listen to some wonderful commercials, and we'll practice our not being angry about that, and we'll come back on the other side and talk more about Uncle Henry.
The wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief, Dev, is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lynes is Book 1 of the adventures of Devkalion, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time.
Hi, this is Hannah Ruth from the band Wild Hum. Check out our new Americana Soul CD, Wild Hum, at our website, wildhummusic.com. And you are listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Thank you.
The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lynes, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indie Bragg Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Hey, this is Java. Stay tuned for my debut album, Northern Sun, which drops on January 28, 2022. And in the meantime, check out my website at java.com, GJOVA, for released music, videos, and so much more. And you're listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network.
Listening to the Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Back to your co-hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, Z-Man. And we're back to talking a little bit about Uncle Henry tonight. Mm-hmm. Although we've been moving far afield, but Thoreau. I mean, I would recommend Thoreau. Yeah, Thoreau is. You have to kind of work your way into him a little bit because it is so present that it's sort of foreign when you first start to read Henry or read through his writings or his poems, and you just have to put yourself in the mindset of a person who is not living in quite the same reality as the rest of us. He's living in an experiential moment, a true being state most of the time, and when his writings are from that state. And so you're sitting there going, well, what happened next? And what happened? Nothing happened next. It just is. It's just him giving you a slice of a single being's experience. And in some ways, if you read it from that point of view, you go, well, I could never do what he did, but yet I can see what he did was a valid, true thing, and that even in witnessing it through his writings, you can begin to appreciate it. So Uncle Henry was quite a special guy, and in many ways, the echoes of his life are important. From the point of view of understanding something about what's kind of really going on here, beyond the mental spin, beyond the endless sort of voices in the head. He got outside that in a different way, a real different way from some of the others who have done the same. And it kind of speaks, Margaret, to something that you've said many times, which is, we have all these different philosophies and religions and everything. They all have a piece of the truth. Thoreau had a piece of the truth, and he followed it relentlessly.
Right. That's exactly it. When you give space for the fact that all religions, all philosophies, all cultures have a piece of the truth. And the truth is so vast that we can't wrap our heads around it. Because I think that's where we go astray, is that we believe that somehow we can figure out what the truth is without realizing that there is a vastness that you're not making room for. Because when you're figuring something out, you want to be able to put it in almost like in a box that you can turn it around and maybe put this piece over here or that over there, trying to figure it out. It's fine for certain things, but you must make space for the fact that you just don't know everything. Imagine that.
And aren't all those conceits mental conceits? This is the mental trying to fit. The mental tries to fit eternity into a box and infinity into a box. And it's an impossible task. And so the mental, rather than give up, it just says, well, then eternity isn't that big. It's only this big.
Well, but why does it do that?
I think it does that because it can't, otherwise it would have to realize that it is not big enough. Its arms are too small to box with God. and it would have to give up its supremacy.
Well, it has to learn to share.
And that too, which is also bad.
It has to learn to share, and it just doesn't want to share.
And the mind is an aggressive 2-year-old.
Yes, it's time. It's time for you to share. You need time out.
No, mine.
And I think if you treat your own ego or your mind as that aggressive 2-year-old and give it time out, it will eventually learn to
play nice.
Well, it won't go so crazy.
Yeah.
I think it goes crazy because it's overwhelmed by the vastness of what's out there. There's no confidence in the fact that it's going to be fine.
Yeah, the mental is very, that's a very insightful way of putting it. The mental has no confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And this echoes right back to Thoreau. Go confidently in the direction of your dream. The mental never goes confidently into anything, because confidence is again, it's the being state of knowing that it's going to be all right. And you know it at a heart level, you know it at an experiential level, you know it at a being level, that even though you didn't figure it all out and you didn't buy the insurance, you don't have all the stuff, and you lost the coupons, all that happened, it's still going to be all right.
It's the truth, though.
But I lost the coupons. Okay. We'll get other later.
But that is, it's key to understanding that that's part of who you are. You have this part of you that does do this. And not to say it's good or bad, okay, because people want to immediately judge. It's turning the mental into another mental.
And not that phrase, which you just said, not to say that it's good or bad, is the mental exactly wanting to, but is it good or is it bad? But I've lost the coupons. Are they good or are they bad? Like, it's just okay. It's neither good nor bad. It just is. And the mental goes, it has to be good or bad. It can't be just nothing. You just have to okay, here's the cookie. Sit down before you hurt yourself.
That's when you have to learn the self-soothing techniques.
Yes, you need to give your mental a thumb to suck on.
Yeah, well, just understand. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Okay. And it's very interesting to watch, because there is a part of you that climbs the wall like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And many of us have been taught that that's exactly what you should be doing, is climbing that wall.
And who taught you? It was others, but it was you accepting it and bringing it into your own mental and teaching yourself that you had to.
You have to do it, because this is the only way you can figure something out. Otherwise,
it's good or bad, good or bad.
Then we've walked the line of insanity at that point.
Yes, if you go far enough down that, there is nothing but insanity there. You said it earlier, that you feel like the world is ending if you go far enough down it, because you realize that you can't figure it all out, and you're like, oh my God, the world's ending. I can't figure it all out.
But that understanding that the only thing you have left at that point is apocalypse. Just everything goes. It's just okay, that's not life. That's just a mess. So it's a mess.
Right.
Let's back away from the edge here, people.
Right, and the word confidently can sound arrogant to somebody. Oh, what do you mean confident? Anything could happen. The confidence is this: yes, I accept that anything could happen, and it's still going to be okay. And that drives the mental crazy. What do you mean? It could be bad. No, it's going to be okay.
It's understanding that it is bad and it is good.
And it is bad, it is good, and both things are okay. And you go, wait a minute. You're like, okay's in the middle of bad and good? No, not exactly. Okay's around the whole thing. It's all okay. And then you go, I don't like you.
I want to drive. Let me drive.
I'm a great driver.
I'm an excellent driver.
I'm an excellent driver. And you go, okay, it's time for you to take your pills and sit down.
Okay now.
Okay now.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, that it's truly something to realize that going confidently in the direction of your dreams doesn't mean that they're bad or good. In fact, it doesn't matter if they're bad or good.
Mm-hmm.
You're just confident that the moment of now will be okay. Even if the moment of now is the last moment of your last breath of your existence in this form, it's still okay. And wrapping your head around that is impossible. Your head can't wrap around that.
Well, this is what we said before. If you travel down that road of mental ego, you get a shell. You get a shell, an empty vessel.
Mm-hmm.
And again, is that what you want? Or do you wish to be able to be full of life so that that shell does not exist? There's no barrier between you and the world around you. See, that thought alone is very scary for most people. What do you mean there's no barrier between me and the world around me? Of course I'm supposed to have a barrier.
No.
And it's limiting your concept of what life is. And it's not as simple as thinking about it and making a list of pros and cons.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're absolutely right. The worst thing that you can do to an ego-bound person is to tell them that no matter what you do, life is connected directly to you. There's no barrier.
Mm-hmm.
And the ego-bound person will
cringe.
Yes, or they will attack. They will attack that because it's extremely, fear engenders anger. These two emotions are almost directly linked, and the ego fears that and will become angry at that. And the purpose of saying that to someone is, there's that crazy movie, The Matrix, and I'll just allude to it in this way, that they always said, well, we never wake up someone who's too far into the dream because it destroys them. You as a being have to be, you have to understand when someone is ready to be woken fully, in yourself included, in the process of becoming aware that reality is, and that there is no barrier between you and reality, and it's okay, neither good nor bad. These things, which you probably knew when you were 2, that you now re-know or re-embody, are very scary to most people who are still bound in ego and bound in the mental, and they will attack. You see it in Christ's crucifixion, or in what happened to people who bring up these philosophies. Oftentimes, there are great followings, and then there are those who want to assassinate them and kill them, because there's fear involved, and emotion, and it's just it's neither good nor bad. It is just okay. But this is a powerful thing. It's neither here nor there. It just is true and incredibly powerful, and in some ways, as you said, incredibly scary to a lot of folks. And to be careful from the point of view of not drawing them into an emotion storm.
Well, if they're not ready, it's better just to let them be.
Be, in the sense of
they're just not ready.
Don't poke.
Yeah. It's kind of like that story about the butterfly. You know, when
Which one?
the caterpillar has made its chrysalis,
Oh, yes.
and the chrysalis, it's basically come to the form with wings, and it's no longer a caterpillar. So it begins to break the chrysalis. And there was a gentleman who looked at that and said, "Oh, let me help this poor thing. It's trying to escape."
Hmm.
And it cracked open. He cracked open the chrysalis for it. But the butterfly never really extended its wings and could take off, because what the gentleman didn't understand was the butterfly needed the struggle in order to invigorate the wing muscles, so that it can have the strength to fly.
Right.
And without that, it cannot fly.
Right. Right. And sometimes a well-meaning, I'm going to wake the sleeper, if you will, is trying to get around the struggle for them. And you need the struggle. We all do. We all need the struggle.
Well, this is what this place is.
Yeah.
This is a giant chrysalis that we're all breaking through.
Breaking form is interesting also.
Yes, so that we may fly. And you can be there to cheer on, but you must allow the person to strengthen their wings for flight.
Yeah.
Very difficult to do because you care. But and to the outward form it looks as if, okay, well, the butterfly has its wings and it's already cracking it, I'll just help it a little bit.
Right.
But that's not the real test.
Imagine the forbearance of the divine. To look at us all over here struggling like mad and going, oh, yeah, I could help them, but wouldn't do any good. You know, we patterns in this being state, in this reality, are fractal. They repeat over and over and over again. And you know, when you look at a child struggling to do something, that you must let them try. And if you do it for them over and over again, you do them not only no good, you do them harm. You harm them in their development. Well, this is the same thing, except writ large. So in fractals, every tiny thing is repeated ad infinitum to the most small, and ad infinitum to the most large, because that's what this place is. It is endlessly repeating these very simple things in this vastness of which consciousness encompasses.
Oh, consciousness travels along those fractal lines.
Yeah.
And experiences all the different patterns that it encounters and realizes that you continually go deeper.
That's why Uncle Henry, why Thoreau was able to reach such great, amazing truths in very, what would appear to be very simple, experiential events. But it didn't matter, because in the small is the large, in the large is the vast, and the vast is the incredibly small again. All those things can be the root of them, the heart of them, if you will, not the root, but the heart is in all of it.
Yeah,
every piece.
That's why the theory of a holographic universe, and each part of a hologram contains the whole pattern.
The whole, exactly.
It's just a wonderful, wonderful byplay.
Well, I think we've reached the fraction of the show, which is about to contain the end.
Really?
Well, well, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I have to repeat that pattern again. Maybe a 5 looks like an 8.
That's a problem.
That might be the problem, is that my fractals need cleaning. my fractals. But I think I like what we've done with Uncle Henry, because again, go back to his phrase here. The dream that he's talking about here, well, he says your dreams, but they are your dreams, because each one of us as a unique being.
You also have a unique viewpoint.
Exactly. That's what makes it yours.
And to understand that your unique viewpoint is so valuable, so precious.
Precious.
Because, the human world, they immediately want to place values on the way people do things and where they happen to be in their life and who's more important than whom. And it's not what is. Your dream is yours because it is your viewpoint. Other people may be going through the exact same kind of thing, but it's not your viewpoint. And your viewpoint is so unique and precious that the Creator made a place for you.
And it's neither good nor bad.
Right. And I believe we have reached...
Your fractals are better than mine. You're probably right. So...
I'm Margaret.
And I'm Michael.
And thank you for listening.